The gaze of this pharaoh defies time. Across the centuries, his impassive face delivers the message of a civilization haunted by the beyond. Tutankhamun's mysterious smile reminds us of the riches of ancient Egypt, but his empty eyes speak of death. In 1922, the world was recovering from the Great War. Archaeologists were getting back to work in their long-delayed digs. In Egypt, a darkness intended for eternity was pierced by the flickering light of a candle. The silence was broken in a tomb where no one had set foot in over 3,000 years. Howard Carter astonished the world. After years of searching without success, he had uncovered, in the heart of the Valley of the Kings, the fabulous tomb of Tutankhamun. Overnight, the treasures in the young pharaoh's tomb cast their spell on the Western world. In the public mind, Egypt became the country of mysteries, the land where humanity must seek out the keys to its past. Has anyone not dreamed of the riches of Egypt, or visited the pyramids without being moved? Today it seems everything has been discovered. Hordes of tourists hurry past, taking pictures of everything they can't commit to memory. But modern Egypt offers a vision of a land suspended between past and present, a land where many mysteries remain intact. The history of civilization in this part of the world is above all the history of a giant river, the Nile. Its legendary course will guide us on a journey through time. Egypt is a gift of the Nile. The green ribbon of the Nile Valley has always held a fascination. Ancient Greek explorers, accustomed to rivers that flowed from north to south, saw the Nile as a thwarted force of nature. And what a force! It stretches for 6,671 kilometers. The power of the Nile seems irresistible. Nomadic hunters were the first humans to appear in the Nile Valley. 4,000 years before Christ, they fled arid lands and built camps of reed huts beside the Nile. There, over the next 2,000 years, an empire grew and prospered. But what role did the Nile actually play in the foundation of this society?
Si vous regardez une photo satellite du nord-est de l'Afrique et que vous voyez le million de kilomètres carrés qui correspond à l'Égypte, vous voyez très bien que le ruban vert de la vallée et le delta ne sont là que parce qu'il y a le fleuve le dessine. Et c'est évident que dans ce désert, c'est la partie la plus orientale du Sahara, dans ce désert il n'y aurait rien s'il n'y avait pas l'eau. Donc le Nil est absolument la vie même de l'Égypte, c'est évident. Et les Égyptiens le transcrivait très bien, puisque quand vous avez des scènes de lustration, de purification, où vous voyez, par exemple, le pharaon qui est purifié par deux divinités qui l'encadrent et qui versent une aiguière le flot de l'eau qui tombe en se croisant sur le corps du roi est fait de petits signes de vie qui se succèdent les uns aux autres, qui s'encastrent. L'eau, c'est la vie.
The source of that life is in the mountains of Ethiopia, 2,200 kilometers from the delta. The headwaters of the Blue Nile form a vast lake between the mountains, almost an inland sea. Lake Tana, as it is called, covers 3,500 square kilometers. Between June and September, storms rage over the high Ethiopian plateau. Water streams down the slopes. With the coming of the monsoon, the lake overflows, and the water of the Nile begins its journey down to the plains. Plunging through the smoking water of the Tisisat Falls, it takes a month to cross Ethiopia and Sudan. The clear waters of Lake Tana become a mighty rushing torrent. For several kilometers, this raging tide tears whole blocks of sediment out of the mountains. In some years, it carries no less than 50 tons of silt, all the way to the mouth of the river. In July, when the vast flood reaches Egypt, the scene changes. The Nile is now between 8 and 10 meters deep, and it spreads out across several kilometers of the plain. In the 4 months from July to October, the Nile floods the arable land and turns villages into islands. Every year, the Nile widens enormously, at the same time depositing layers of silt that push back the desert. The ancient Egyptians tried to keep a record of the recurrent floods. They tried to detect the first signs of the flood by building nilometers to measure increases in the water level. The moods of the Nile were part of daily life. The Egyptians soon realized that the floods could never be controlled. They would have to adapt their sowing and harvesting to the rhythm of the floods. Imagine their wonder when vast stretches of water covered everything. The flood was, of course, an important source of wealth and prosperity, but the Nile also had a magical character. How did the men and women of ancient Egypt see the river? What place did it have in their world?
Le Nil lui-même, étant donné qu'il est finalement la voie de communication de l'Égypte, cette présence souveraine de cette masse d'eau qui devenait une véritable mer pendant la crue, fait que l'implication se retrouve un peu partout, et en particulier